It's known as the world's oldest profession. You know the names: prostitute, tramp, call girl, hooker. But most of those people are really victims of human trafficking. News 5's Dominique Rick spoke exclusively to some of them about that underground world.
Ohio ranks 5th in the nation for human trafficking. The victims recruited young, in most cases between the ages of 12 and 14. And experts tell me if a kid goes missing, there is a 75% chance they will come face to face with a human trafficker within 48 hours.
What did I do? What did I do to deserve to be in this situation?
Her story begins more than 2 decades ago.
And I remember thinking I was going to die.
A 5-year-old girl, trapped, traumatized, tormented, building memories of horror for a lifetime.
My mind shut down because I could not comprehend the moment that I was in.
Mimi Diaz had a secret. A chilling secret.
Inside, I wanted to tell someone, but I knew that I couldn't.
That stayed in the dark.
And every weekend would be the same thing. I mean, like clockwork.
A game of dominoes in the back of a convenience store.
Whenever he lost, it was a loss for me as well.
What exactly did your father do to you?
Besides take away the innocence of a 5-year-old girl. I never really open up about it, and I try to pretend it doesn't affect me.
But it did, and still does. It started with her father, and then her brothers. By the time she was 10 years old, Mimi was being sold and exchanged by her family to complete strangers for a couple $100 a session.
They were all my uncle, but really they weren't my uncle.
Whenever her father lost a game, Daddy's little girl doubled as his payment. Mimi was trafficked by her family. Annette Mango,
you get beat up
by a pimp.
How many times were you raped?
I can't even tell you. It was bad. It was bad.
Annette spent a lot of her time on the streets being sold.
I did it for years. Years, the same pattern.
At any point in those 15 years, did you ever say enough?
Every day. Every day. It's not a day. It's not a day.
But like all victims, Mimi and Annette were trapped. An industry raking in millions and millions of dollars each year.
City to city, hotel to hotel.
Human trafficking.
It's happening every day.
Meet Deputy John Morgan. He tracks down pimps and locks them up. He knows their world inside and out and says things are getting worse.
People don't see what these people see.
The underground world of human trafficking runs like a bizarre corporation. On top, the CEO. This is the pimp. Right underneath what we would call the CFO. This is a woman, known on the streets as the bottom bitch. A twisted term to describe the first lady, so to speak, of the pimp world.
They're more brutal than the men.
While there's no doubt men run and create this industry, these women help run the operation, collect money, and keep the other women in line.
It's different when a woman is beating a woman.
I struggle with sometimes accepting myself for who I am.
Who is she really? She calls herself Tamar, but the role she played?
Did you ever traffic women?
No.
Did you ever help to run the operation?
She was running these girls.
In a world where you can be a victim and a criminal all in one, that's where Tamar found herself. Posting ads, recruiting customers, escorting women, wiring money, and administering discipline. Tamar spent 17 months behind bars for her role.
I felt so dirty and I felt so ashamed.
I thought I was menace to society.
I felt like this is something I was going to be doing forever.
Victims scarred from the inside out.
It injures them and traumatizes them in such a basic way that they don't see themselves as a victim. They see themselves as harmed in a way that no one's going to love them.
Trauma so deep it works as a barrier to getting out.
We fight really, really hard to get them out of it and to make sure that they stay out of it.
The traffickers continue to walk free. Most victims just want to forget about it, which doesn't keep these criminals off the streets.
A lot of people think that when you come from human trafficking or when you come from abuse, when the situation's done, that's it. It's the end of the book, the happy ending. It's not.
Mimi is not healed and never will be.
To this day, I still wrestle with my self-worth.
Even though life has moved on,
To this day, I still struggle with abandonment.
her past remains with her
To this day, I can't hug a guy
every day.
without thinking that they're gonna hurt me.
For many of these women, and in some cases men, they say the dark is their enemy. Mimi tells me she still has to sleep with the light on. Making it even more difficult to arrest the perps, the entire industry has transitioned to the smartphone, and sites like Backpage.com or Sex is Sold. It's hard to track and nearly impossible to trace. Live in the studio, Dominique Grix, News 5.